Should this be considered a legitimate health crisis for young people?
Absolutely.
Every single day, maybe a little bit more than 500 puffs a day.
It's something that is very much part of their social scene that they're doing with their friends.
Well, you'll get suspended for selling a vape, and like 2 days later, you'll be back at the school selling like 6 vapes.
The fact that they're getting bullied into, if you don't take this hit, we're gonna beat you up, that was shocking to me.
My parents don't like it, but they know they can't stop me from vaping.
It's honestly ruining some people's futures.
This is where your child will be spending most of their waking hours inside a school like this one, much of it in the classroom. But it's what they might learn outside of class that's one of the biggest concerns for BC parents. Vaping. Gone are the days of the smoking pit, and now it's all about this, the vaping pen. The numbers are alarming, and they're taking a heavy toll on schools. And we start in Abbotsford, a microcosm of what's happening in school districts around the province.
Some of the behaviors we used to see in high school now starting up in middle school. So things are happening earlier for kids.
Vaping is relatively new. It's like smoking, but instead of smoke, the vaping device produces aerosol that you inhale. Aerosol containing nicotine, flavorings, and other chemicals.
But you gotta like control it, that's the thing.
It is not a fad.
I started vaping in grade 10.
Schools are the breeding ground, and experimentation is leading to addiction.
I was a very clean kid, hung out with the wrong friends, and then kind of got peer pressured into it.
What made you vape for the first time?
I wanted to seem cool.
So probably like 10. I used to hang out with older kids.
How about you, Emma? What does vaping mean to you?
Addiction, really bad addiction that I struggle with.
1 in 5 students in BC have tried vaping. That is 20% of a school population in the middle and high school range.
I'd say 1 in 5 seems low. It's a huge level of concern.
At Abbotsford Senior Secondary,
Right now there's like 20 of them in here.
Vice Principal Brent Schroeder routinely has a desk drawer full of confiscated vapes.
This isn't a here problem, it's an everywhere problem, I would say. But it is eye-opening when you're the one doing the actual work, seeing how much of a problem it is.
We have 250 alternate students.
Okay. At Bakerview Centre for Learning, an alternative school in Abbotsford, the rates are much higher.
I would say maybe 80% of kids vape. I don't know how many of them have their own vapes. I know that they share them.
When you're saying 80%, you're saying close to 200 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm saying it high. I always would rather like err on the side of like overrepresentation than underrepresentation, because I think one of the problems is if we pretend this isn't a thing, right? If we're saying, oh, it's just 10%, and that is a big deal for 10%, but maybe it's more than 10%. And if it is, then what's this going to look like long term?
Vaping is the number 1 issue being dealt with in schools.
Addressing the vaping culture in schools is one of the district's top priorities.
Again, if 1 in 5 have tried or engaging in vaping behavior, that young people see it as something that everyone is doing.
Deputy Superintendent Dr. Nathan Ning co-authored the Wellstream Report, a UBC-based research initiative.
It certainly confirmed for us the high number of young people that are engaged in vaping.
The nationwide survey revealed that 64% of Canadian principals and vice principals say vaping is the #1 substance-related issue at schools, and it's pulling them away from other priorities.
It is becoming a huge amount of the work that a principal or vice principal is doing in their schools on a weekly basis.
So you're talking about 6 hours per week?
Per week, dealing with issues related to vaping as the #1 piece in addition to other substance use issues.
Is that accurate?
Oh, totally. At least 6 hours a week. And I'm just one of 3 vice principals in this site, and that's for me probably at least what I spend. When you think of from monitoring the building, popping into the washrooms.
From fielding complaints, ensuring school safety, meeting with parents, and intervention, it's become a heavy workload they did not see coming.
And that's just the disciplinary part. The meaningful part to me is more about like trying to have the meaningful conversation with a kid about why is this going on for you? Why why are you feeling that you need to vape during the school day in the building?
My colleagues spend a lot of time chasing kids in and around the building. Kids will text each other, hey, let's meet up, and then you'll find groups of kids in the bathrooms. And then you've got another problem of the bathroom's not safe for kids to actually just go and use the bathroom because there's groups of kids in there.
We have a parent night series.
District Parent Advisory Council Chair Shannon Rose says the current vaping situation in Abbey schools is only getting worse. You're hearing complaints from kids who are not vaping.
We're not vaping.
And what are their complaints?
Biggest complaint is use of the bathroom, because most of the vaping takes place in the bathrooms during the school day, because it's an area where you don't usually see administrators or teachers using, and kids are afraid to use the bathrooms.
What is your concern level when it comes to vaping in BC schools? How high is it?
Oh, absolutely, it's high. I share parents' concerns and students' concerns.
BC Education Minister Lisa Baer says she's aware of the challenges, hearing complaints firsthand.
I mainly hear from the students themselves, actually. Every time I go and visit classrooms and have a conversation and give that opportunity for a question answer at the end, every single classroom, there's at least one student who asks, how do I get my friends to stop vaping? What do I do when I'm getting peer pressured to vape? It's a real concern amongst students themselves, not just the adults.
They were vaping and doing drugs at their mainstream schools. They don't start it here.
You just can't force people to stop.
4 students from Bakerview agreed to give us an unfiltered picture of what's happening around their district, and what they told us was shocking.
You get threatened too. Be like, if you don't rip the vape, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. That's what you hear a lot of that.
Really?
Yeah, not really with girls, but you hear with the guys.
I'd be walking past the guy's bathroom and I was like, oh, I'll beat the fuck out of you if you don't hit the.
That type of bullying.
If I was a guy, I'd never go into a guy's bathroom. I'm sorry, I would go piss in a pot.
For girls, it's peer pressure, and for guys, it's like bullied into it. Yeah.
It's more like forced. Like they force you.
What was the most shocking thing you heard there?
The beating up, like the fact that they're getting bullied into, if you don't take this hit, we're going to beat you up. Like that was shocking to me.
A young person might not know that, or the consequences of beginning to vape with high levels of nicotine and the addictive nature of that substance.
For me personally, it used to be cool, but now it's kind of more turned into a thing to relieve stress for me. So when I'm stressed out, I hit my vape.
This phase of life is the experimental phase, and this phase of life is nothing bad will happen to me. It'll never happen to me. It's fine for me, and consequences happen to other people. I thought to be young.
That sense of invincibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. Coming up, we'll hear more from the Education Minister. Plus,
I don't know where they buy from.
How young people are easily accessing vape products. But first, what we know about the impact of vaping to your health.
There is an effect on the cardiovascular system, there's an effect on the lungs.
I remember being in high school and we would all meet up in the 3rd floor washroom and we would just, hit each other's devices.
She's now a 4th-year UBC student who wants to remain anonymous. She started vaping at a mainstream high school in Burnaby in grade 10. 6 years later, she now regrets how vaping took control of her life.
It seemed very low stakes at the time to try. The idea of doing it seemed so fun and flavors were tasty, and so I was doing it multiple times a day, trying new tricks as well. And I remember on social media at the time there were a lot of videos circulating on people that could do really insane tricks, with larger devices, with a lot of smoke. So there was definitely a lot of mimicry among my peers. We would send each other Snapchat videos. What once was something fun and non-serious has been more of a way to cope with stress.
The psychology major decided to quit just a few months ago after seeking treatment and professional advice from Dr. Milan Kara, a smoking and vaping cessation expert, an authority on nicotine addiction. Do we know yet the long-term health consequences of vaping?
Yeah, and that's one of the difficulties in this area, is that we don't really fully understand what the long-term health consequences will be. We know a few things though. We know that vaping is almost certainly substantially less harmful than smoking. So for an adult addicted smoker to switch to vaping, probably a reasonably good idea. They're going to reduce their personal risk if that's all they can do. If they can't quit, but they can switch, it's a good thing. But because vaping hasn't been around for that long, because it's only been around for a decade or so, the long-term health consequences are not really well understood. There are signals, though, that it's not an entirely benign activity. We have lots of research that suggests that there is an effect on the cardiovascular system, there's an effect on the lungs, but we can't yet say that vaping increases the risk of disease X by a factor of 2 or a factor of 3 in the way that we can do about tobacco smoke.
What is motivating you to quit?
I think just the lack of research around what the potential long-term health consequences can be. And
Let me know if this is all true. Vapes contain toxic chemicals.
Vapes certainly contain chemicals that we can consider to be toxicants that may well be harmful to the lungs and the cardiovascular system. But they contain less harmful chemicals by a factor of 100 or more than cigarette smoke.
But even short-term, can vaping cause breathlessness?
Yeah, there's some evidence that vaping can cause a worsening of symptoms in people with asthma. So yes, there are some suggestions that vaping is harmful to the lungs.
I have a long cough that I've had for about a year now, and it's not as bad, but especially when I get sick, even with like a small flu, my cough gets super bad because I'm vaping a lot.
I work out a lot, but I have shortness of breath, but I've been trying to work on that. You can feel your lungs just shaking because you're not getting enough air, and because you vape for so long, your lungs have to take in way more air.
Breathing water vapor is not a healthy thing, and it has implications. And so I have heard of young people who thought that it was healthy because of the way it was marketed. They engaged in it, they got addicted to the nicotine, and they continued at a high frequency. And now I've heard where they just have a hard time breathing.
Would you consider vaping with young people a legitimate health crisis in BC?
I think it would be reasonable to say that a practice that has become so highly prevalent that has the potential to addict many young people should be considered to be a high priority.
Why did you decide to speak publicly about this?
I think adolescence is just such a tough time for everyone. I've definitely been through it, and I think also reflecting back on it, there were so many things I would have done differently, and this is absolutely one of them. And, I just hope to kind of share that message with people, or just help educate and be an example of an adult who's also kind of been through all of that journey with substances.
Your vaping days are over?
Yes, they're over. But I'm on the patches now, and I have not used a vape since earlier this year. So it's been maybe a month and a half at this point. Yes.
Good for you.
So thank you.
One of the difficulties, I think, is when we treat addiction or when we treat people with substance use disorder, one of the things we do is we encourage them to remove the triggers. We encourage them to move away from the people, places, and things associated with that substance use. For example, people who are struggling with alcohol use, we recommend that they don't go to the bar. But with young people who are vaping, they go to school every day. They go to school and mix with other kids who are vaping. I think this is one of the real challenges for kids who are trying to make change, is that they are right there with their triggers front and center at school. It's not an option to say don't go to school.
Coming up, the strategies to reduce vaping in schools.
Earlier the better. So we talk about upstream approaches.
Plus,
We work for money.
we visit a vape shop in Abbotsford to see if owners are selling their products to minors. You can check the weather on a vaping device?
Yes, you can check the weather.
If you drive around Abbotsford, a lot of vape shops here?
Absolutely. You could just drive down the street and you would see one.
It is true, you don't have to look far to find vape shops in Abbotsford. In fact, here at the intersection of Montrose and Essendine Avenue, It's just a 4-minute walk to find 4 different vape shops. Accessibility is a major issue when it comes to young people vaping.
The access to vapes, vape juice, to those products, it's not regulated strongly enough, in my opinion.
There's an access issue, right? Too easily accessible for young people.
One of the easiest things ever. You just got to get 20 bucks from your mom and then just find out whoever's selling vapes at your school.
Dimple Batra is owner of Vaping Lit in Abbotsford.
Okay.
She started her business just last summer.
Okay, what's the most rewarding part of the job, owning a vape business?
Rewarding?
Yeah.
Making money?
She's proud of her inventory.
And people are like, wow, fancy.
Happy to show us all of the latest and greatest hits of vape products with their sleek packaging, endless flavors.
This is like a bubble tea menu.
And irresistible gimmicks.
I'm now hearing that there are vaping devices that have touchscreens, that have games on those touchscreens integrated into this device. So these are the kinds of things that we expect the industry to do to make this device increasingly attractive to young people. And again, we need to have legislation that prevents this from happening.
The doctor I was talking to said there's actually a new vape where you could actually game.
Yep.
Oh
yep.
yeah,
you can
I want it.
There's a Bluetooth one. You can put play music each time you rip it. You can play a song, or you can like there's gambling machines, like a slot machine. There's a Tetris.
So how much is that worth?
$60
Every 2 weeks.
every 2 weeks.
And where do you buy it from?
A vape store here in Abbotsford.
Kids, they always try to come in.
Batra is adamant that she never sells to minors, even installing a metal gate to control the flow of young people entering her shop.
Of course, you love the money, but it's not like you just sell to anyone else, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know where they buy from.
Yeah.
Maybe adult buying and then they selling to them, who knows?
Are you concerned about the young people that are getting addicted to it?
Well, anything. Even junk food is bad. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But we know that, but we eat.
You're pretty strict in terms of not selling to minors.
That's true.
Yeah.
Have to.
Does it surprise you that some people do though?
Hi. Can I see your ID, please? Oh. Do you have the ID? No, sorry. Okay.
Okay. She doesn't have ID.
I already can tell by the face.
Stores,
Telegram.
online.
You got Telegram. You got like so many places.
Timu used to sell them.
Where we are in 2025 is better than we were in 2020?
I believe the actions we took in 2020 were significant and they made a difference. You know, they absolutely, there's more to do.
Education Minister Lisa Baer says a lot has been done to address student vaping in the past 5 years. Restricting flavored vapes to 19-plus stores, reducing nicotine levels that are sold in cartridges, plus
today's letter is F for formaldehyde.
Launching an anti-vaping awareness campaign, the A to Z about the harmful effects of vapes.
So we had a youth council who had their hands in co-creating the messaging so that we made sure that the anti-vaping messaging we're creating and delivering in the province speaks to youth so that the message gets through.
We're not seeing a lot of educational programs, especially in our schools. So as a DPAC, we've looked at some things to do. We've brought in Fraser Health last year, and we did a vaping presentation for parents. We would like to see that continue.
With the doors open, we do constant sort of supervision.
As for vape detectors in washrooms, the approaches vary around the province.
My immediate reaction would be if you put a vape detector in a washroom and it eliminates vaping in the washroom, the vaping will probably just go somewhere else.
Is it effective in stopping the problem? No.
The same argument can be made for suspending students for vaping on school grounds.
Really, those decisions are made down at that district and school level because they are best positioned to be able to do that.
Do you think a punitive approach is productive?
You know, I think there's so much that needs to be done. I think education is key.
I think taking a punitive approach is not helpful. Trying to deal with this as a health problem with empathy and meeting individuals where they're at generally, I think, is the approach we apply to all substance use disorders.
If somebody gets mad at you about something, all you're going to do is continue to hide it and continue to do it. If anything, it pushes them to do it more.
What I found when I worked at a mainstream school is that we took a discipline approach. You were suspended if you were caught vaping. And to me, it struck me as sort of counterintuitive to have kids out of school away from their academics because they're vaping. And there is a discipline side to it, like it's not healthy, we can't endorse it, we don't support it, we don't need you doing this at school. But to take a discipline approach, like I'm not sure how that's going to change the outcome. You know, you get suspended, are you going to stop vaping? If you're addicted, the suspension is going to stop you from vaping. There's a balance of like managing it at the school level, but also not interfering with an academic program.
The Vaping view is from a wider lens in Abbotsford. The district wants to take a long-game, holistic, collaborative approach with new Canada-wide standards and more professional development that is relationship-focused. The big challenge is there isn't a lot of great evidence for long-term health consequences, and so young people could say, I'm okay. What do you say to that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of trying to create an evidence-aligned approach. And one of the things that has come up from young people when we engage in conversations is the underlying why they might engage in substance use. And often we hear about, I want to connect with my peers. I want to connect with adults. I want you to ask me how I'm doing, rather than take a punitive approach and tell me what not to do. And so that's been the focus when we talk about upstream prevention and approaches and a framework. Really about connection with young people, building positive relationships with young people. And that's where schools are uniquely positioned in the environments that we have, is to really support that caring and inclusive environment.
Underneath the vape, there's a story of a kid. And that's the thing that, like, the conversation, for me in my office, that's where the conversation goes. You know, I've caught you with a vape in the building 2, 3, 4 times now. How come, what's going on for you that this is happening so much? And underneath that, it's a symptom of a bigger problem, often. A problem of kids who aren't connected meaningfully to adults or to their parents.
What would your message be to parents who are worried about their kids starting to vape?
Check your children's teddy bears. Oh. Check their teddy bears. The kids will cut open their teddy bears and put vapes inside them. Especially if you have dogs, check their teddy bears.
I think having those conversations early, I think acknowledging that this is a thing and addressing it openly and honestly, and listening before reacting, because I imagine as a parent it would be shocking to find out that your student was vaping. But I think there's a hesitancy sometimes to share with our parents because we're afraid of the consequences or disappointing. And so if those dialogue lines are open, I think it leads to more intervention and support.
Very tight, yeah.
The Abbotsford School District believes that just say no, zero tolerance approach just doesn't cut it anymore, and the recent provincial initiatives have not been enough. So instead, they're advocating for more action at the federal level, with total collaboration between schools, substance abuse experts, healthcare providers, policymakers, and of course families, all in an effort to ease the burden of vaping in schools and also to protect our BC youth. For Global BC Presents, I'm Jason Pires. Thanks for joining us.